Hi, welcome to DramaMeans. Today we're talking about the 2024 Chinese drama Escape from the Trilateral Slopes. Today, drama means intense atmosphere, drama means building character, and drama means waiting for death at every corner.
So first, a summary. A young man drops out of college to go work for his uncle, who's the foreman for a building project deep within the Golden Triangle, an area known as the epicenter for Asia's drug trade. When his uncle goes missing, he finds himself fighting for his life inside a world he knows little about. Gangsters want him dead, police want him arrested, and with each passing day it seems less and less likely he'll ever survive long enough to find his uncle. So this one was unexpected for me. I was like, wow.
Yeah, so I knew that it was going to be intense. The fact that Francis Ng was in it, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be like, a good project.
Yeah, he's going to choose things that let him chew up acting scenes and play characters and play emotions and play gravity. Like, this guy plays gravity. Just, it's so fun to watch the silent moments.
Oh yeah. It's so interesting because I grew up watching him. I grew up watching him when he was like background.
Uh-huh.
On the old TVB dramas and, like starring Andy Lau and Tony Leung as leads, and he was in the background, like no lines, just, and then after a little while, he was in some TVB dramas, and my family always called him Moktao Yu, which literally means wooden, and then his name, right? And so, and then just at some point, he just got better and better and better. And now he's just this seasoned, amazing master at acting.
Yeah, there was this moment where you had said, and you were like, did you see what he just did with his ear? Like the guy's ear acting.
Yeah.
Like, I make fun of actors for like eye acting and like eyebrow acting and things like that. But like, this guy is out here ear acting.
Yeah.
Just little subtle movements and the way that he contorts his face and goes from serious to kind of playful or, compassionate to fiery. And there was just so much tension built in every scene he's in. And honestly, the way that this show builds tension overall is so incredibly well done because, like you said in the intro, it really does feel like death is around every single corner.
Yes. And it's just, but it does give you those little breather moments when, like, the camaraderie is there and, like, they're building friendships, they're building character, they're building a bond. It's just, it's there, but yet there is, there's those moments where you're like, damn, I think everyone's going to die.
Yeah, I think this show does something really well. And we talk about it in film school a lot about how do you demonstrate the theme or the tone or the danger of a show or a movie early. And so, you kill a character in an extremely violent or unexpected way early so that now the audience is just sitting around waiting for the next shoe to drop. And you've already kind of proven, like, well, here's a character we thought would last deep into the series. They're dead. Which was what made Game of Thrones so good, is that by the end of season 1, you've killed this character who I think all the audience thought was going to be the hero for the whole series. And you kill him at the end of the first season, and you're like, oh, everyone's expendable. There were moments in this where I thought the main character, this might be it for him for the show, and they were moving to a new direction, which would be crazy to do, but I thought they might do it.
Uh-huh. I did not think that, just because, I know the actor, and like he's known for his acting. He was in Joy of Life. He was in My Heroic Husband. He's made a name for himself for his acting and his likability. He's very good in comedic roles. We've clearly seen that he's good in his emotional and even like action-packed roles. I really like the character development and like kind of the roller coaster of emotions that he's put through. Kind of like, not like bratty way and like not listening and not taking his uncle seriously, to holy shit, my life is on the line, I'm gonna die.
Well, he does kind of show up as a brat. I think that's the right word, because his uncle right away is like, what are you doing here? Just being there at all is so irresponsible. Like, why would a normal person choose to be here, is what basically the uncle's saying at the beginning. Nobody normal wants to be here. And then he sneaks out the first night he's there. It's no big deal. We sneak out. It's like sneaking out of your house, right? No, not here. Here it's different. People don't play by the same rules. And he has to learn all these lessons the hard way over and over again, which I think is so gratifying to see him go through this growth and see him go from that kind of brat to kind of a scared brat to then a little more of a savvy character who starts to realize, wait, everyone's out for themselves. I need to be out for myself too.
You know, there are times like what he goes through in terms of like being framed for a murder that he didn't commit but he witnessed, and you know, being wanted from in that whole area.
Yeah.
And then also having like loan sharks after you and trying to kill you, and then at the point where like the real killer realizes you're still alive and you weren't taken care of, and then he wants to kill you. It's just all this stuff coming at you, and then it's like you have no idea. You lived kind of a privileged life, and then you have no idea how to handle people like that or is situations like that. But then also when he gets to a point where like he meets Ang Chun, he's like, I keep thinking, I'm like, why is he trusting these people? Like, why does he keep trusting people when he was put in such a bad situation where like the guy tricked him, and then he was literally almost killed, and then also became a wanted criminal? Like, why did he keep trusting other people?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was just kind of like, I was getting kind of frustrated in the beginning. And I kept telling Ryan that I'm engaged, but also like there are things that kind of annoyed me to like, for me to kind of want to disengage.
Right. You weren't all in on his character or his plight at this point, because he was kind of like being a little too naive, a little too dumb, like running headlong into things. It's like, dude, you've almost been killed like 3 times now. Maybe don't believe the first thing everyone tells you.
Yeah, but also he keeps going around and like asking questions and getting into people's business, and I felt like when you get to a point where like you were betrayed, that almost cost your life, I would like, me personally, I would no longer get into anyone's business and ask too many questions, because that could lead me to dying.
It's a double-edged sword, though, because there are several times where he does stick his nose in, and him sticking his nose in is actually what saves him. And so it's like, it's not just what you know can kill you in this world, it's also what you don't know can kill you in this world. It's basically everything in this world can kill you.
True.
And I agree. I think early on, I was a little bit, he needs to stop like relying on other people, but he's also so out of his depth that he has really no choice but to form alliances. And then as the show goes, we see him start to use people the same way that people are using him, and him realizing there's no such thing as a good guy here. Everyone is out for themselves, and if we're after the same thing, then we can be an alliance, but we are not friends. Like, you have to look out for number one first. That is just the rule of the jungle. And he has to learn that and get a little better at playing that game. But then that being said, he also does kind of form some friendships, but it does feel like everything is tentative. Everything is situational. Every friendship he makes, and everyone kind of understands it. Like, we know we're friends until we can't be friends anymore because our wants go against each other's, you know?
Yeah. So there's this scene where Danto gets thrown in the water and they're like drowning him. And it's to threaten Uncle Tsai, which is Francis Ng's character. And Francis Ng wouldn't bend 4% or something like that.
It was negotiating the percentage of the route that they were going to take or whatever.
Yeah. It kind of proves exactly that situation where like you really, really like someone, right? But you're not going to bend over backwards. And like, even if it means that that person has to die, you have to stand your ground.
Well, because not standing your ground probably means you're both going to die.
Yeah.
Like showing that weakness and giving in. And that's the thing that Tsai knows better than everyone else is every decision you make has a consequence. He's playing 3-dimensional chess the entire show. And he's not always revealing what he knows and how his plans are supposed to fall out. But he kind of knows the move everyone is going to make. And so he knows when he has to sacrifice a pawn, as much as he doesn't want to, and as much as he doesn't really view them as pawns.
Yeah. So that scene really showcased what we're talking about. Whereas like, even though you build a bond because of a situation, it could change at any moment.
Which again leads back to the show being so unpredictable and the tension being so ramped up, because maybe as much as they weren't willing to kill our lead character, you could have seen them chop his arm off. He could have gone through the whole show with a missing arm or a missing leg. I mean, they do it to the uncle. Like, you know what I mean? Like, bad things are going to happen to him at some point in the show. And some of these scenes, you're like just waiting for it to happen. You're waiting for the gun to come up or the billy club to come out or someone to get stabbed.
Yeah, definitely. I really like Shen Xing's like character growth and how he starts out very naive, very trusting, and then he starts like putting the puzzle pieces together by like gathering the information, even though I thought he was very like too trusting, but he starts gathering the information and like piecing together like what the backstory or the real story is, and then that helps him like save himself from like, you know, getting into extra trouble or like doing what he needs to, you know, get the job done for Uncle Tsai. And so then that makes him like trustworthy now. Like he's like in with the guys now, and he, you know, and then he can do more things. So my favorite part is kind of like the lumberyard story.
Okay.
That it kind of leads in like from the cattle into the lumberyard, but like that was my favorite part. It got really good. That felt so like there was no like dull moment.
Mm-hmm. It was ratcheted up all the way.
Yeah. And then it goes into the casino story, which like I don't love the casino story, but I know why it's necessary.
Well, he got too big for his britches.
Yeah.
Like he thought he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
Which is your first mistake, is when you're learning things and you think you've got it figured out. That's when you learn you don't got nothing figured out.
Yeah. And it's just like when you're too cocky, like again, it's like it's that story where like, you know, the big superstar and they like become like not grounded, you know, and then it's the same thing, like he became not grounded and then he fell from grace. And like it's just this, it's like his character in itself has the structure of like beginning, middle, and end.
Absolutely.
You know, and so it's so well written and so well done.
I think pacing is a big thing I would go with on this too, as far as we kill some bad guys at the right time of the show. We get to the uncle at the right time of the show. We progress through the story. It doesn't just feel like same old, oh, he's dealing with the same problem in order to find his uncle. Like we kind of solve issues and then move on to a new issue, and the show gets to evolve, which I really appreciated.
Yeah. Acting wise, he literally started during the casino parts. He literally started acting like how Francis Ng acts as Uncle Tai.
Oh yeah, the posture, the walk, the hands in the pockets.
Yeah, the way he talks to people, the way he like leaves a situation early.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so funny. It's so subtle. And like, you may not notice it, or maybe you do notice it, but it's so like on purpose.
Yeah, it was everything I felt in the show was done with intention.
Yes.
That as he progressed, the acting matched the writing, matched the pacing, matched the tension. And we did kind of get these almost vignette stories where, they're dealing with something and then they're dealing with the cattle thing and then they get to evolve from that. And now they're dealing with the lumberyard and everything runs into each other, but there's new characters, there's new bad guys, there's new alliances, there's new stakes. And what I love, there's a subtle thing that I really love about the show is that the reason he lives through this experience, the number one reason is the people he meets along the way. He gets saved a lot.
Yeah.
But the reason he gets saved, and the second reason why people decide not to kill him a lot of the time, is that they actually look at him and they're like, you know what's weird? You're a good dude. No one here is a good dude. But you sometimes do things that are against your own interest because you're a good guy. And it's such a out of character thing in that part of the world to see a guy doing moral and just things. And that sometimes bails him out of situations with the worst people.
Yeah.
And it's why he's able to gain trust in some of these relationships that come back. And like when Lambo saves him, and it's like he wouldn't have saved him if he hadn't have done the right thing along the way with that guy.
So as for filmmaking goes, it looked incredible.
One of the best shows, period. Like, forget Chinese drama, Western drama, anything. Like, this is one of the most, I would say beautiful because it was gritty. It wasn't a pretty show, but it really had so much texture.
Yeah.
And it had the right texture for the right moments. Cinematography was fantastic, but even everything down to like the wardrobe design, like everyone's dirty all the time. Like, and they live with blood on their clothes and they live with dirt on their faces. And I just thought, like, again, the attention to detail and the filmmaking and just the directing, you could just see how shots kind of melted into each other. And I'm like, wow, like it was really impressive, like technically.
So I want to go back and talk about Francis Ng again.
Oh, Francis.
No, it's not even that. It's just with his acting, I like it even more watching him like act with younger actors. And like kind of guiding them. I watched him on that Memories Beyond Horizon, which is like kind of an acting reality show where like young actors going through and they're like, learning about more ways on improving their acting, or like young actors improving. And there is an idol on the show, and he's part of the group TNT, which is I think like it stands for Teenage in Times.
Sure, because all their names always make sense.
Well, the thing is, in Mandarin, what does make sense is 时代少年团, which literally means like the young idol group at the time.
Right, of the times, basically, yeah.
The idol his name is Liu Yaowen. And so he's never acted before. He's never starred in anything. He might have played a bit role in some of the TNT productions where it's like, it's just all the idols,
Yeah, but like real acting.
Yeah. And so there was a scene where he acts as like, they do like a Triumph in the Skies kind of scene, which is an old TVB, one that Francis Ng was like the lead in.
Okay.
So it talks about like pilots, right? And so the two young actors, they're doing a scene from that drama, and then Francis plays the guy's dad, right? And so just watching him and like guiding him and then like teaching him how like from like blocking to like the type of breathing he should have while he's doing the scene is like amazing. And I just love watching like, you know, this like master at acting, like passing on his knowledge, you know? And so it was just fun to watch. So I also, you know, really enjoyed watching him, you know, act with all these like younger actors, these up and coming like stars, you know?
Well, I think the one thing that sometimes is missing from these dramas, and I know a lot of these, especially like the costume dramas where they're like 40 episodes and they shoot them very, very fast and they work incredibly long days. But for those who don't know, like how typically in a drama a scene works is that, you know, actors do their homework and directors do their homework and writers do their homework. And once you get to set is really the first time you all do your homework together and you rehearse a scene together. And the director kind of lays out their plan. And if I'm on set, the writer I can be like, hey, I don't know if that plan quite works. And we can have a little sidebar so the director can figure it out. And then the actors come in. And in America, the actors have a lot of ideas because the actors hold a lot of power. And the actors can say, wait a minute, you want me entering through that door? Where was I coming from? Where was I before this? Why am I coming through the door? Why am I not already here? Why is he here? And they have a lot of questions that you need to know the answer to. And I sometimes notice when we watch dramas with much younger actors, they do things in scenes that don't make any sense. Whether it's blocking, whether it's saying a line of dialogue, and it's just like, wait, that doesn't quite make any sense. And it's because they're just listening to the director, and they're not asking questions, and they're not asking, why am I standing here and not sitting here? Where you have someone like Francis Ng, who demands the respect of the director and the producer and the creators, who comes in and go, where am I standing? Why am I standing there? I don't know if I should be standing there because I own this space, or whatever the conversation is. You could tell those conversations were had in this because of the way they commanded the scenes. There wasn't those things where I was like, wait a minute. So like, why is he just walking randomly into that door? Why is he like, oh, because the director wanted to do this shot? You can never explain to an actor, oh, well, you're sitting there because I want to do this shot that has you in the foreground. It's like, that's your problem. Like, that's your pretty pictures. I don't give a shit. I want to do acting that makes me look like I know what I'm doing. And I think that's when you talk about the older actors and the process and the workshopping, that happened on this show. 100%, I would guarantee it. That they changed things, they changed lines, they changed blocking, they made it work, and the actors workshopped things until it was right.
Yeah. Even though there are parts of it that I felt like it didn't make sense, like the casino parts, I just like, they lost me during that time. I was just like,
Oh yeah, me too. To be
like a lot of it like didn't really work. And then like it, I don't know, it just, the whole like weird planning and scheming thing from like Terrence Ying's character, like I don't get it. Like
it felt like the worst casino plan ever. It was like we're in the casino business and our casinos are very busy, but instead we're gonna kidnap people. Like, wait a minute. What about the busy casino making lots of money? Doesn't the house always win? Why are you kidnapping people?
Yeah. And also like the weird torture like space. Like, wait, they owe you money, so you're gonna keep them stranded there and not able to get you more money, but then somehow they sign a contract and then they somehow miraculously pay you back the debt, which like,
yeah, I didn't understand the value of any of that.
Yeah, like that shit didn't make sense at all, and I'm just like, I don't get it.
I guess we don't live in this world, so maybe like that makes a lot of sense when you're deep into it, but it felt like the show itself got a little lost in the weeds there.
Yeah.
Like I think both of us understood what they were trying to do. They wanted to humble our lead. They wanted to put him at odds with the characters that he's come to kind of be with, and his alliances are questioned. And I think I get all of the wants from an emotional and character standpoint. Just
the
logic was tough for me there.
Yeah. So I mean, we're gonna forget about that.
Well, it's just one of those things where, like, you know, the good thing about it is they moved through it quicker. It wasn't an entire show about casinos. You know, they start with the alcohol, and then they go to the cattle, and then they go to the casino, and then we work our way to the drug war and the kingpins. And I loved, we kept working our way up the mountain kind of in this world and deeper into kind of, you know, really illegal shit.
Yeah.
And really bad people. Like every time you meet someone bad, you're going to meet someone worse. And so as kind of dumb as the casino logic and plotting was, at least we didn't have to sit through that much of it. Because I do think that was the weak point of the show. It was definitely the low. I felt like it started a little slow, and then it ramped up, and then it kind of let us down, and then it finished strong.
Yeah.
And I'm just glad it finished strong.
Yeah. The ending was very interesting to me, because it was kind of, it's not open-ended in terms of like Shen Xing gets to, you know, get his ass out of there and like not be in the turmoil, but it holds a question and it leaves it to the audience to decipher. Is Uncle Tsai going to become the next kingpin?
Right.
And was that all his plan in the first place? And like, although he's telling Shen Xing like, oh, I'm gonna reform, you know, the Golden Triangle. We're gonna change how things are because it was good before.
But it was good before in the fact that they were supplying food and booze to drug dealers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So we don't know. And I think a lot of it has to do with censorship also.
I mean, possibly. I think, you know, him saying like, I'm going to reform this area and like things are going to be different. And it's what he's doing in that scene. What the words that are coming out of his mouth is he's saying, hey, stay with me, be my right hand. When I get too old, you're going to take over. It's going to be great. And the entire show, this character has said things that make people do the things he wants them to do. So my open-ended question, even more than, you know, is he going to become a kingpin, is he saying this to scare him to leave? Or is he telling him something that he hopes will make him stay? Because we don't actually know at the end what Tsai wants for our lead. We don't know if he wants him to go home and live a happy life in China, the life that Francis's character can't have. Does he want that for him? Or does he really want someone to pass this off to? But I do think he's telling him something that will make him do a thing, just like he's done the whole show.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's kind of the overarching thing is he's like, if you guys would just fucking trust me, I've got it all worked out, but you're over here doing this and you're over here doing this and you're meddling here. And yes, you've all done good things, but like sometimes you have to just trust me that I got a head on my shoulders and I've been doing this a while. And so that's my open-ended question of does Tsai tell him, hey, stay here, make a life here, because he knows that will ensure the kid runs? Or is he telling him that because he really wants him to stay? And whether or not he's telling the truth doesn't matter. He's just telling him a thing to get him to stay.
The thing is, he knew he was going to leave. Like, he literally watched him leave. I mean, he was sad about it.
Was he, though? I mean, that's my question. Is he disappointed that he left, or is he glad that he left and just sad that he lost a friend? You know what I mean? Like, there's a gray area there.
Part of me thinks he's glad that he left, but he is like, literally, you know, 3 people are dead in there and on the wall, you know, and then he leaves. It's like, who else does he have? He has Scrag left.
And a couple of unnamed henchmen, really.
Yeah, and Scrag is like the dumbest person ever.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have, you know, a successor.
But he also knows in the Trilateral Slopes, you do what's best for you. If you have to kill your number 2 to make sure that the rest of you live, those are the rules of the game. And so if leaving is the thing that gets you what you want, you have to do it. And it doesn't matter that I'm only left with two dudes, you know, and I've got, you know, I'll find other dudes. Like, I'll figure out a way, because that's what he always does. He always figures out a way. So I love the ambiguity. I love not quite understanding exactly what everyone's thinking. And I think the show does a really good job of not over explaining, trusting the audience that you're going to go. Like, there are several times you have to almost pause it and go, wait, do I understand everything that's going on? Because there's a lot of characters, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of organizations, there's a lot of interconnectivity between everybody. And you almost have to kind of stop and go, okay, wait, have they told me this yet? No, they haven't told me this yet. I have to wait for them to tell me this to see if my theory's right. And if that speech that he gives at the end is for the censors, to trick the censors to go, hey guys, he's going to be reformed now. Don't worry, he's going to be a warm and fuzzy drug dealer. And because, you know, the people that censor our media don't know much about media. They don't know much about entertainment and subtlety and metaphor. And so if you can trick the censors and do something really profound and interesting and in the subtext, I'm even more in favor of it.
Yeah. We have noticed that a lot throughout this whole drama, they kind of really cut away from the violence and the goriness that it could have been.
Yeah, and I read a couple things saying that they were worried about censorship, so that maybe they shot some of the gory moments, but then they edited around it to try to please the censorship, that it wasn't overly violent. I said this to you before, of like, off-screen deaths really bother me a lot of times, especially when it's a character we care about. I don't love it when a character just goes off and dies. This show might be the exception to that, because it just showed how common death is in this part of the world, and that you're not always around when your friends die. Yes, sometimes your friends get gunned down in front of you, and sometimes you get a phone call, and it's just, hey, by the way, he's dead. And it's almost more shocking because it's so nonchalant. And I think that not showing it and not showing all the violence and gore kind of worked in the favor of the show in a weird way.
I didn't need it. I didn't need the excessive blood and, like, you know, the watching, you know, the throat being slit. I didn't feel like I needed it because all the emotions were there. And I feel like when those things are shown, like, it's supposed to evoke an emotion from you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I think they do it so well that we didn't need to see.
Well, yeah, and I think sometimes we talk about it with CG, right? Where just because you can show something because we now have the tools to do it. In the old days, like, you didn't have the tools to show someone's head getting blown off or chopped off. Like, that would take, like, you know, prosthetics and mannequins, and it wouldn't look right. And now that technology's gotten better, we can, like, literally light stuntmen on fire, and we can, like, make really good prosthetics that you can chop off, and, you know, ears that you can cut off, and all these things. But just because we can, should we? And I think the one interesting thing of this show that I did feel like the deaths they show on screen, a lot of times are almost more surprising because of so much they didn't show us. Like when Dan Tuo shoots the guards at the lumberyard.
Oh, yeah.
Just like, I'm here for your lives. Bam, bam. And I was like, oh, that happened quick. And when the teacher guy, when he
Justin, I think.
Justin or Dustin, I can't remember what it's Justin. When he gets shot, like, that happens so quick, and it's so impactful because of how quick the violence is.
Yeah.
And they don't do a lot of violence that's like has this long drawn up build up to it, you know, like it's all surprising and brutal. So I agree. I don't think you need the gore. I think some people online were saying, oh, maybe we'll get an uncensored version of the show that'll show more. I
don't need it.
I don't need it. I really don't. I think that we saw what we needed to see. And that's enough.
Yeah. So do you think that there's going to be a season 2?
I don't think there should be a season 2 for Shen Xing.
Mm.
I think his story's over as it pertains to the Trilateral Slopes. I think possibly Francis Ng's character's story is also done.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't feel like there's a lot more to explore there. Like, we kind of ran the gambit of all the emotions for these characters. So if they were to do a season 2 of this, I would say they have to kind of do the Fargo thing where it's in this world, but from someone else's perspective.
Mm.
And maybe not from an outsider's perspective, maybe from a deep insider's perspective. Someone who's born, raised, and we see them, a hero journey from them going to, child soldier to human being. And they progress the other way than we saw in this show. That's the only way it would really make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, they make season 2s of things all the time that don't make sense to me.
I think, well, here's the thing. I think they might make a season 2 because this, I think, did relatively well.
Yeah, from what I read, they said it started out not so... I mean, I think kind of what we thought of it. It started a little slow, and we weren't really that into it. And then it felt like what I was reading is it really gained steam online and viewership and critics, and everyone was starting to really get on board with it by the end. And by the end, everyone was like, this is great. I mean, the rating online was over 8. It was like 8 point something on all of the rating sites. So I would say it was a success.
Yeah. But first of all, I think it's hard to get Francis to do a season 2. He's really busy. He literally works all the time, no matter in Hong Kong or in China, and then he does random variety shows and things like that. So I don't know. And he also does stand-up comedy. I didn't know if you know that.
I don't. That's the last person in the world I would think would do stand-up comedy.
The stand-up comedy thing is actually from a long time ago. That he's done all these stand-up tours with Dale Wong and Zhang Daming. There's someone else, I can't remember his name. But it's his little because Dale Wong's a known stand-up comedian,
mm-hmm.
but their crew is they love stand-up comedy. And honestly, Francis Ng has great comedic timing. But I know they said that Zhang Daming is sick, so they're not gonna
okay.
They haven't been able to put it on a tour because they want to do it
all together.
Yeah. And so he actually is in, I think he's a mentor or a host or something, in a new stand-up comedy competition show in China.
Gotcha.
So he has his foot in a little bit of everything, and he has family life. He has a, I think, teenage son,
right?
That they have a good relationship. And so it's just a lot of, I just don't see him being in season 2. I don't know about what's his name?
Guo Qi Lin.
Yeah, Guo Qi Lin.
I think the thing with Francis Ng and any of the actors of that caliber, especially when you get to the status you have of really picking your projects, just having known a few people at that point in their career, they only pick roles that really interest them. You're I only have so many great roles, so many great acting days left in me. I'm not going to waste them by doing the same old thing. I'm going to do things that interest me, that I really find that challenge me, or, you really get some reward personally from. And you see it with the Andy Laus and the Tony Leungs and all that. They're very careful when they pick projects, more than they were when they were young.
Yes.
When they're young, they do kind of everything. They do 6 movies a year.
Yeah, Andy Lau did I don't know. Well, he has a world record on how many movies he's filmed.
It's tons. But when you get a little older, you do pick them for a reason you want to do. Tom Cruise does Mission Impossible movies because he gets to do crazy shit. He gets to jump off mountains. And as long as they keep letting him jump off mountains and fly helicopters, he's going to keep doing Mission Impossible movies. When it's done being interesting to him, he won't do them anymore. And I think the same thing with Francis Ng. What would be interesting to him about season 2 of this? What new thing can this character explore? Nothing really pops in my head if I were in his shoes going, oh, I'm really excited to go play this again. Because it does feel like it'll just be a little more of the same.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just me being having very shallow vision. Maybe there's something amazing they have planned and he would be very excited to play. But I do think, like, when you get to that age and you are busy, I've tread down that road. I'm good.
I was struggling with the rating for this because I was leaning more in the buffet line. But so it was a little slow and I wasn't disengaged, but I wasn't like as engaged as I could have been in the beginning. Then I got really into it and we like burned through several episodes. And then we got to the casino and it was a very big lull for me during the casino scenes. And albeit like the acting was great, it was disturbing and I was almost in tears when what happened to Li Ming, the essay.
Yeah.
Like, it was so, and I was so, like, frustrated because, albeit, he was, worried for his friend. Shen Xing was worried for his friend. Like, he didn't take the steps to really, like, help him. It was, like, more about, like, where can I put him? Where can I get him a new job, get him a new job, get him.
He didn't understand the deep trauma of it.
Yeah, and it was really frustrating for me, and I, like, just thinking about it, I'm, like, starting to tear up again. Like, I felt so frustrated. He needs actual care. He needs, therapy. And then just him, like, brushing it off and everyone covering the fact that, like, he's going through a bunch of shit and, like, hurting himself.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it was hard to watch, specifically in that. So there were a lot of, like, I don't know. But I do think that the drama is very good. And so I'm going with Drinks on the Pool Deck.
Yeah, I think it's the same for me. It is kind of that, halfway between in the buffet line and the Drinks on a Pool Deck, like somewhere in the middle of that. I would lean towards Drinks on a Pool Deck just because I think the filmmaking plus the acting plus the story overall and the character arcs, so much of it just flat out works that it feels like a drama that would get nominated for some awards.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot done so extremely well, and their shortfalls, I think you maybe not forgive, but you do just remember less because so much of it was done well. So I think Drinks on a Pool Deck as well. So this week's recommendation is a book. You have to do some reading for this one. It is called Gang Leader for a Day. It is by an author I will try to pronounce right, Sudhir Venkatesh, who was a sociologist who went into this kind of housing project in Chicago with the idea of kind of doing a survey to talk to people about poverty, and ended up being befriended by the local gang leader and got, his eyes very wide open about what it's really like to live in that community and what it really means when we say living in poverty or living in the projects. It just, it's a thing you just throw out as a term. He got to see firsthand what it really means. Really, really good book. I've tried to adapt this every way you can think of adapting this. I don't know if they've ever really been successful of like making a movie or a TV show out of it. But it's been bought as IP by basically everyone. You'd see it in Variety all the time. But, they're making a gang leader for a day. Oh, they're going to make a gang leader for a day. But the book is fantastic. It's gritty. It's real. So if you want to check that out, very, very highly recommended. Anywhere books and audiobooks are available.
Yep. And that is it for us this week. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.